Yo, what is going on, guys? It is TikT here, and today we're going to be taking a look at a couple of new and awesome features in the much awaited One UI 4.0 based on Android 12. So let's get started. So the first thing that you're going to notice once you upgrade to One UI 4.0 is a new color scheme. Well, that's because One UI 4.0 takes advantage of the new color palette feature in Android 12. So it just basically creates multiple color palettes based on the colors of your wallpaper. But unfortunately, there's no manual way of choosing colors from your wallpaper. And you also have the preview window on top. But anyway, after palette has been applied, the change takes place on your entire phone and the Samsung official apps like the Samsung Calculator app, for example. But unfortunately, if you're using other third-party apps, like the color palette feature will not be applied in those apps. And you even have the option of applying the same color palette to the app icons. But it is still the same here. It doesn't work on third-party apps. And there are no changes inside the Themes tab though. But speaking of changes though, we have another new UI redesign inside the widgets menu instead of One UI Launcher 4.0. This new UI supports vertical scrolling, which feels a lot more efficient and easy to use compared to last year's One UI 3.0, which only supported horizontal scrolling. Yeah, Samsung stuff. So you can just scroll down, find your desired widget, click it, hit add, and bam! That quick, we added a widget to our home screen. Unbelievable, right?
Hey!
Unbelievable, right? And One UI 4 also has a lot of changes in its lock screen and the always on display mode. Now also say that you're streaming some raps. And if you have a couple of other devices connected, like Bluetooth headphones, speakers, and etc., you can just change the audio output through the music widget on the lock screen. Pretty quick, right? And speaking of widgets, there's also a lot of new widgets that you can see when you double tap on the clock on the lock screen. And it's fully customizable, of course. For example, you have the calendar widget where you can see your schedules, which is pretty useful for me, as I plan my schedules for my YouTube work on Google Calendar. And now with One UI 4.0, you can even record voice memos from the lock screen here in this widget. Let's try it out, shall we?
Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, never gonna run around and desert you.
And all these widgets are accessible through the always on display by doing the same thing you did in the lock screen, and that is double tapping the clock. And speaking of the always on display have just been messed with a bit. For instance, you can now set always on display to turn on when a notification arrives to your phone. This is a pretty great feature to preserve your battery, especially on the standard S21 over here. And speaking of preserving the battery, One UI 4.0 also, however, offers the Protect Battery option, which basically limits the charge limit to 85%, which theoretically should improve the lifespan of your battery, because it's not fully charging up to 100% and down to 0, which would result in a cycle being used. And the standard lithium-ion battery has around 300 to 500 charging cycles on average. And if you finish all of them, your battery is going to be pretty dead. Now, instead of unplugging your phone manually every single time it charges up to 85%, annoying, you can automate that task by using this feature. And this option sits under Settings, Battery and Device Care, Battery, and more battery settings. And it's called Protect Battery. And if you use Samsung's inbuilt One UI keyboard, we also got some new features here to play with. For example, you can combine two emojis together to express some complex human feelings, even more accurately. And we also have a lot of cute stickers. And we've got a lot of improvements within privacy too, like showing you what resources your sneaky little apps are using, by allowing us to deny the permissions when you want to be unseen and unheard. For instance, if an app uses your camera or microphone, it immediately starts to show a green icon as a warning that the microphone or camera is being used. And if you want to know what app is using your camera or microphone, you could just pull down the notification center and tap on that little green icon. And bam! Now you can see what app is exactly using your camera or microphone. And if you want to, you can disable the access to the camera and microphone for all apps just by tapping these toggles in the privacy settings dashboard. Similarly, you could do it on the notification center by pulling it down, swiping until you get into the last page, and hitting the plus icon. And now you should find the two toggles called microphone access and camera access, and in the available buttons menu. Now just drag and drop them onto your notification panel. Now we can click OK, and bam! Now you can just go into the notification center and disable or enable access to the camera and microphone instantly by tapping these toggles. And if you are worried about apps doing some really sneaky stuff, you can come down into the privacy dashboard and you could go into the permission manager. And now you could see what apps have been accessing every single aspect of your phone. And it's sorted out by the most recent app access, but you could even see what every single individual app is doing. So now let's quickly jump into the Samsung Camera app. Now the major great change is that the scene optimizer doesn't torture you to change the mode every 3 seconds. Instead, it just shows a tiny little pop-up less frequently. And you can even press and hold the camera shutter button to start recording immediately, which is already a feature in One UI 3, but if you leave the shutter button, it will stop recording. Yep, simple as that. But in One UI 4, you can drag your finger to that little lock icon, and bam! Now even if you take the finger off your screen, it is still going to be recording. And the portrait mode now also works on pets, but I don't have a pet yet. And the single take feature is also improved. So basically, single take just snaps multiple photos and puts it onto one video file. But the time limit is 15 seconds. But if you have One UI 4, you also get this plus 5 seconds button. So if you want a bit more time, you can click on that plus 5 seconds button. And the fun doesn't stop in just shooting photos, as Samsung also tinkered a bit with their gallery app. Now for instance, you could pull your photo up and get a little more detail, but most importantly, we got the geographical location of where that photo was taken. And this feature is a lot of fun, especially if you take photos on trips. And not only that, you could even click on a particular location and see what other photos were taken in that same place. And if you have a normal image, you can even edit the metadata by simply clicking on this button and clicking on edit. And as you can see, you can remove the location of where your photo was taken, which I'm gonna absolutely do. And now you can also change the date of the photo was shot at. And this is particularly handy when you downloaded a photo on a different date, the photo was shot on a different date. Sometimes it may tell the date that you downloaded the image. If you do remember on which exact date this was shot, which most of us don't do, but if you do, you can edit that too. And we also got some new tools while editing our photos, which can be accessed by tapping that little pencil icon on the bottom right. And if you come into the brightness category, we also got the light balance feature, which is similar to the brightness setting, but if you max out the brightness, it mostly removes all the details in your photo. But if you use the light balance feature, it doesn't wash out that many details from your picture. So sometimes this light balance feature could perform well, or it performs okay-ish depending on the photo that you're editing. But I still consider this as a life-saving feature. And we've also got new stickers. And if you go into the crop tool, you even have the option to remove an object from the background of it. Just like how you would mask an image in Photoshop. And this feature is definitely good if you've got a phone with S Pen support, but on a touch screen, the minor areas you're trying to select are mostly obscured to your big fat fingers. And then once you finish your cropping process, you want to hit that little done button, and bam! Now you can put this picture in a different background whenever you want to. And One UI 4 has been tinkered with in almost every single aspect, like the Samsung Health app, for example. And if you are that person who
tracks all the calories in your food.
And if you use Samsung Health to track down the calories, which, I mean, nobody does, but if you do, well, good news, because the Samsung Health app in One UI 4 offers a huge database of dishes now. A huge database of dishes now. It just feels so weird to say that. If you are that one person who uses your phone all night, just like me, you now have the extra dim feature in the notification panel. I mean, it doesn't exactly make a huge impact on your eyes, but great for the people's eyes who browse YouTube at 3 a.m. like an absolute ghost. And just like how we did with the camera and microphone permissions on and off toggles, you sometimes have to add the shortcut of extra dim manually. And you can even edit the settings of extra dim, like changing intensity for example, by long pressing on that extra dim icon. So now we're done with the new features of One UI 4. But let's take a look at my experience with this new operating system. Now we're done with the new features of One UI 4. But let's take a look at my actual experience with this new operating system. Well, it turned out to be kinda terrible because I'm using Hex, a paid custom theming app for One UI 4. Not for One UI 4, it's just generally for One UI. Great. And it was in development ever since it was released, which was like 3 or 4 years ago. And it even causes boot looping issues on some devices running One UI 4.0. So I hope that Hex will fix the problem, and I do want to address that this mistake is on Hex's side and not on Samsung's. And ignoring that, One UI 4.0 is a great new and fresh operating system, which I will not install in my main daily driver as I use Hex way too badly. So alright guys, that's all for today's video, so hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, I just want to hit that like and subscribe buttons for more like this, and set that notifications to all so you'll never miss out on any single piece of content that I upload. And also smash a comment down below if you have any queries or any ideas for my future upcoming videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys all in the next video. Goodbye. Scripted by Trigger.